In a rapidly expanding omniverse of sci-fi content, two Terrans try to make sense of it all. From the latest to the greatest to the most thought-provoking science fiction content on the screen, we bring you Crowded Space Podcast.
Welcome to Blast from the Past, episode 20. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm your other host, Jarod.
So today we're going to talk about Running Man.
Yeah, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as we watched it on Paramount Plus.
Yes.
Came out at the end of 1987 after RoboCop.
Yes, and it was the best.
Is that a commentary on some of the acting from the lead,
good old Arnold.
or-
His one-liners were all over the place in this one.
Yeah, I think a lot of them were dubbed in after the fact.
Yeah, because
But-
he had the lips thing going.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, well, we can get into that a little bit.
But let's start with
later
a
on.
synopsis.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is a really cool synopsis and based on a book by Stephen King that he wrote under a pseudonym of Richard Bachman.
Yep.
There's probably a whole nother story there that we're not going to get into. What we will get into is a really cool premise of essentially a kind of dystopian future where the criminals are essentially put on trial of sorts by running through this game show
This
to the
gauntlet.
death. Yeah. And well, probably no better time than to, if we're going to get
Dive
into the
right in.
background, yeah, to get into the opening text. So
Take
in
us in.
2017, the world economy has collapsed. Food, natural resources, and oil are in short supply. A police state divided into paramilitary zones rules with an iron hand. Television is controlled by the state, and a sadistic game show called The Running Man has become the most popular program in history. All art, music, and communications are censored. No dissent is tolerated, and yet a small resistance movement has managed to survive underground. When high-tech gladiators are not enough to suppress the people's yearning for freedom, ... more direct methods become necessary.
I think
In comes our main hero, Ben Richards, to put up a stink when the military tells him to shoot on a bunch of innocents striking for hunger. So
Yeah. Just like, kind of like Russia, but, we won't get into that.
yeah, so kind of framed.
Really oppressive and poor. Ben gets kind of framed because he tries to fight against his orders, and then his team just knocks him out, and he finds himself on the other side of the coin.
Right. And it's kind of cool that he goes to jail, actually manages to escape, then kind of comes in contact with the resistance and then holds this one lady up
Yeah.
essentially, and then she turns him
Turns
up
in.
at the same time that the executive or producer of the Running Man sees the footage of this guy. He's like, ooh, we need him on our show. He's going to make us a ton of money.
Yep. Fire him up. Find him.
Yeah.
Bag him up and bring him in.
So even though he manages to get out and get intertwined with the resistance, he gets pulled back in to play the game. So
The Running Man.
right. And then I guess it's a little bit of a twist that some of the two ties to the resistance, they also capture them, and they're running the gauntlet with him.
Yeah. To kind of
And-
get him to, hey, they kind of use him as leverage that you should do the show, and, we'll let your friends go. But then at the end,
Right. When there was the one kind of computer dude, Weiss, and then,
Yeah.
well, at any rate, to keep up with the plot, then Amber, essentially Menendez, so the lady that he held hostage that
turn him in.
turned him in
Yeah.
the first chance she got,
Just before he gets on the
started
plane to get out
following the incident on the news, obviously, because they're talking about her name.
of there. Yeah.
her ears perk up and she's like, wait, that's not how it happened. And she does a little bit of digging and gets into trouble herself when she finds out that they, cooked the original footage to make him look like the bad guy.
Here he is, ready to pay the price for our home audience. In person, the Butcher of Bakersfield.
Yeah.
Total deepfake,
and that's one of these things that I wanted to get into. I'm glad you brought it up. Is like, oh wow, this is one of the first movies to really pull out the deepfake.
Yeah, it's nuts. It is.
For his footage, I feel like that was just clever editing, and it almost seemed like in the later scene with Jesse Ventura's character, Captain Freedom, I felt like that was actually more of like the super deep.
Right, because they kind of took his face and put it on the stunt double or whatever.
Yeah. Showed like the wire model around the people.
Yeah.
As it.
Oh, that technology back then. Gotta love it.
Yeah. So the representation of it was obviously pretty dated, but it was a really cool idea.
It's pretty solid at this day and age.
And that this so-called reality TV is cooked because.
It is.
This is. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
What? The Bachelor's not real?
I didn't want you to find out like this, Eric.
Man.
But yeah. Well, while we're pulling off the bandage, Santa Claus isn't real either.
Oh, that makes me sad.
I know. It's a rough Sunday. Now what? Anyhow, getting back to the Running Man and finishing up the plot. Oh yeah. So they run the gauntlet. He kicks a lot of butt when it comes to all the different stalkers that they send out.
I love that old lady that's like totally into him.
Oh boy, that's a tough one.
Agnes. Yeah, no, it's like no, we're talking about Agnes. I don't even know if she's not on the cast. I really feel like she should be as like the representative
should be.
Because the audience plays such a big part in this movie. I mean, it's why the movie is kind of so slow is because they're showing reactions of the audience every 2 minutes. Yeah. A lot of this movie is audience reaction shots.
Which it should be because it's like a reality TV type of scenario.
Yeah, it works, but it definitely makes it a lot longer than it needs to be.
Yeah.
So I'm torn about it. But yeah, Agnes is the one when she's like asking her.
She's got better liners than friggin' Arnold does.
That boy's one mean motherfucker.
But yeah, when she essentially casts her vote for him to win,
that's
and
awesome.
then you see the audience members, the people betting.
They're betting on him. He's gonna kick some ass. Yeah.
Richards.
Let's do it.
You see the tide turning, essentially against the state.
Yeah, that was really cool how they did that, and how if he would have be allowed to win, because initially Killian didn't want him to win. Obviously, he's the game show host, right? He wants his team to win. They would lose all this money because everybody's betting for him, so they would go bankrupt because of you have to pay the winners.
Right, and that's why I offered him essentially a job as a stalker. Is like, hey, we're you killed off a lot of our good stalkers, and B, the people love you, so let's turn a loss into a win. But being a man of substance,
Hollywood.
Ben Richards said, "Go screw yourself."
Yeah,
I think it was something more like, "I'm gonna shove your contract down your throat
and punch you in the stomach
so hard I break your spine," something like that.
It was like, should you just have a one-liner for this part and not like totally explain what you're gonna do?
It's such a wasted line. I gotta punch you to your spine.
And another thing.
Again, they really tried hard to have some clever one-liners in here, and they fell flat so hard, like so hard. What was it? Oh, he was Sub-Zero, and now he's just plain Zero. Like, ow.
We're gonna have to have some good one-liners. In this segment.
Well, so apparently they kind of waffled back and forth. Do we want this to be something kind of ultra-violent like RoboCop, or do we kind of want to go for a little more action adventure and quippy?
Yeah.
And I think you can tell by the last-minute dubbing, they decided to go quippy, and they didn't run it past their writers or something, because the quips are like, oh.
Because I think this
that's
was
really
like maybe
unfortunate.
Arnold's 4th or 5th movie that he's ever done around this time, because he did Predator and he did Conan the Barbarian was his first.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The delivery
Commando.
isn't that great. I don't think anybody in the world could have saved those lines.
But I'm
or
just saying
it
that
would
was
take a
kind of
very
his
special someone.
I'm just saying that was kind of his stick. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
do
Yeah.
the one-liners thing.
Yeah, they even brought in
I'll be back.
They did the "I'll be back"
Killian, I'll be back.
in this, and I'm like, ooh, how many other times?
Terminator
does he
was the
do
other
it?
one. So,
Well, that was the original, and of
Yeah.
course they did it in 2, and that's fine because it's a sequel and it's a classic line. But to use it in Running Man felt a little, but I don't know. Maybe he's in a bunch of other stuff in the 80s, and it was just kind of his call special.
I think it was his
special
stick,
call line.
his shtick for sure on that. So
But yeah, getting back to the plot to just wrap it up real quick, so we can dig into all the other great parts about this this movie and essentially what our final judgment is. But yeah, they were given 3 hours to go through the 4 zones, and after he starts mowing through the stalkers and getting a deal, there's essentially side plot with his 2 comrades in arms that find out that there's a satellite system that they can hack into and take over essentially the
networks,
broadcasting with their underground resistance. And so that's kind of what they focus on. And after saving Arnold's life, he feels like he needs to fulfill the debt and take the code that Amber memorized while the Weiss died finding it.
fighting Dynamo.
Yeah.
The Shocker.
They do hook up with the resistance. They do hijack the feed,
signal,
but
yeah.
not before the major show host baddie.
Killian, I think is his last name.
Yeah, Killian. Not before he does the deep fake that we were talking about, showing Arnold and
Dude, that
Amber's
was so cool,
character
'cause that
getting
was-
their butts handed to them
Yeah.
by Captain Freedom.
Jesse Ventura.
Right, yeah. And him being
Former governor, Jesse Ventura.
right, yeah, mad respect. Well, if you're gonna do that, you have to say former
Former
governor.
governor Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, governor. And so ultimately, they use the hijacked material to set the record straight with the recording of
His first
Richard's, the original unedited that Amber had somewhere hidden.
Yeah.
And then we get the great end scene where essentially Richards throws
Killian down the
Killian
tube.
down the
chute.
the big
The
chute.
rocket chute.
Yeah, which was great. It's it was made it give that game show feeling to it.
Yeah.
And I do think they spend a lot of time and effort into giving this whole thing the game show feel.
Yeah.
And someone as a kid, I loved Price is Right. If you stay home sick, you're watching The Price is Right as a Gen X.
Yes,
And,
totally.
and-
You're
and I
totally
think
right.
even and beyond, and
Bob
lucky enough
Barker.
sometimes.
Bob Barker's
yeah,
Price is Right.
the original. And if you're lucky enough sometimes to watch Press Your Luck.
I was just gonna say, Press Your Luck.
Yeah, they brought it back too. They brought it back.
I was just gonna say, no whammies.
Yeah, big money, no whammies.
Oh shit.
So they really captured the feel, and as you said, they used an actual bona fide game show host from Family Feud to play the producer, game show host, lead kind of baddie face of
He did a good
capitalism
job.
and
He did a good
imperialism.
job playing it.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Charismatic to the audience and
Just devilish.
cracking the whip
Yeah.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So what'd you think of the Stalkers? Did you have a favorite? What was just your overall impression of
I
them?
think Buzzsaw was my favorite.
Let's give a down-home welcome to Buzzsaw Eddie Butowski, last season's leading stalker.
Chainsaws.
Buzzsaw's Hammond and Gates chainsaws are made of tri-lock coated
Buzzsaw.
Durasteel.
You had that
And
crazy eye
muscle,
look.
Sinew, ball.
Right.
I'm doing it. Obviously, you can't see it because we're podcast.
Yeah.
He had that crazy
Big
eye.
pod.
I think one eye was up and one eye was down or something like that when you looked straight
With his
on you.
bleach
I don't know. It was
blonde
like
hair and and motorcycle
Yeah.
that he was lifting up to show off to the crowd.
Oh, he went down in a bad way, dude.
Yeah, it was one of
brought
the
his chainsaw
most
up
violent
and,
scenes I
like,
feel, especially where he's kind of squealing, whining at the end as the saw's going into his crotch.
Yeah.
Essentially. So
It was not the best way to go.
yeah, I'd say for mine, Fireball.
You like Fireball?
I like the whole aesthetic worked. I feel like it was a more timeless thing with the kind of silvery
He had the
chainmail
jetpack.
fire, jetpack and flamethrower. Or
But I
whatever.
feel like those guys were cool too. Like what was the other one? Jesse's character, Captain Freedom.
yeah, Captain Freedom.
They were all
was-
like retired. They're like, "All right, you're up on deck. You're next." Like, oh
well, no,
shit.
Captain Freedom was the washed up one, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh crap, we're running out of stalkers."
He comes in with like
put me in, coach.
He comes in with like a toaster strapped to his chest. Or something.
He has some
I was
cheesy
like, what the
armor.
hell?
Like, I ain't wearing this. I'm taking them down. Mano
Do you
a
want
mano.
some? I got
It's
a
like-
panini press on my arm. Do you want some paninis, man?
Yeah, it's like never mind. We'll just fix it in post. Go sit down,
So bad,
Captain.
Captain
Freedom. Well, yeah, because there was also Dynamo, which was woof.
Cut! Go to commercial! Jesus Christ! I have no power! Cut! Go to commercial!
the worst of all the stalkers,
Yeah,
I would say.
I did not like him.
Just wearing a bright light, essentially, bunch of
A bright light on his chest.
yeah, and helmet. And they were almost going for some opera theme, and then they shied away from it.
I don't know what happened. I
and
think somebody didn't tell like the producer or director or something.
all of his lines were dubbed. There's a whole scene where he's walking and his lips are moving and he's not saying anything. They just scrubbed the whole thing.
They played the music like was it a Ride of the Valkyries? I think
The
it
Flight
was.
of the Valkyries, yeah.
And they're probably like, cut! No, we don't want that. They're like, oh.
Yeah. And then his vehicle was like a 4-wheeler with the cardboard car taped onto it, kind of flopping around, just weak.
It was
Really
bad.
weak.
It was bad.
And so for me, that's one of my major critiques of The Running Man is that the stalkers were a real missed opportunity. I felt like they were kind of a little jokey and they were just big dudes, like big muscly dudes with just a different gimmick. Like, you're the muscly dude with a chainsaw. You're the muscly dude that shoots electric bolts. You're the muscly dude that has a flamethrower. And I thought they could have done a little bit more because the premise is awesome. The game show premise is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's been reiterated several times since then. Whether you see it, if you want to talk about how this influences modern sci-fi, you've got
Hunger Games.
Yeah, the Hunger Games is a really good one. You didn't get that far into Future Man, but Future Man essentially they are put on trial, having to run a gauntlet more or less.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it, but Squid Games.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either.
Squid
That's
Games
another one.
follows that.
Yeah.
Even to some extent, Ready Player One, where they're all fighting in these online matches and VR to scrape by and
It
make a name
follows
for
that whole.
themselves.
Yeah, it
And
follows that premise.
that you've got this one corporation that's essentially running the show and calling all the shots.
Mm-hmm.
And to some extent, it reminded me of Idiocracy, where you just have the masses cheering
on.
Woo!
Cheering for the Orange Man. Go!
Right. And so, yeah, that's one of the things I really did like about the Running Man was, again, the things that it has to say about reality TV and
Like
about
TikTok
having
and all that. Social
Right.
media too.
yeah, that if you distract the masses with flapping heads and bright lights, you can get away with a lot. You can slowly take away their
Exactly
freedoms.
what it is.
Yeah,
Reality
so-
today. Yeah, it's a lot of it's like that. But the cool thing and the cool thing about how it came to with the whole movie is like at first it starts off he's doing his thing like, and then he gets into the trouble, and then he goes into the match, and after that he gets out, he becomes a freedom fighter. So he kind of evolves a little bit too. Ben Arnold's character kind of evolves through the movie as well.
Yeah,
as much as he had little quips.
He really takes a Han Solo arc, right? He's in it for his, he's not a bad guy, but he's a maverick, and then he gets kind of tied up, does a mission and gets tied up with the rebellion, and then he becomes a rebel himself.
Yeah. With a cigar. He's got the cigar going.
Right. Well, yeah, I think that was probably in Arnold's writer for like, okay, my character needs to chomp on a cigar in at least 3 scenes, or I'm not doing it.
Oh. But so let's go back on the whole thing with how it compares to today, with today's sci-fi. Like we mentioned some movies, and we mentioned what it's like for social media and the current political landscape right now. It really falls into that role of let's have smoke and mirrors, and then don't pay attention to the guy behind the curtain type of thing.
Right. And then you've got Anonymous that's trying to show people what's really going on. And get the truth out there.
Yeah.
Just like you've got your resistance trying to hack the satellites and make sure people know what's really going on. And that's more real now than ever with what's going on in Russia, right? A lot of people really think Ukrainians are akin to Nazis, and that what Russia is doing to them is justified. Not to make this podcast political, but again, you start to see, you start to see sci-fi, kind of predict some of the stuff that's going on nowadays, and it's cool, but it's also not cool at the same time.
Yeah, it's kind of it's just human nature in general. It's just some of it is good and some of it is bad. So
like Sub-Zero's character, not so great, really. At least they didn't lean into the Asian tropes too bad.
Yeah,
with him, and it's like, oh, at least he's ice skating. That's not a normal Asian thing to do, so that was kind of refreshing. Even if those scenes, that was like kind of one of the first big fight scenes to me with the stalkers.
Yeah,
whoo, that was long. And
again,
if you go back and watch it, it's 50% reaction from the crowd.
Yeah, they're trying to set the scene.
A lot of filler, yeah. And I tell you, that's some of my favorite parts of this is when he kills the stalkers, and then you see the audience get so disappointed that like their favorite icon died. Like, it's so rewarding. Watch people's
that old lady, man.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of old people.
You're not gonna reboot me.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be one of the stalkers. Reboot.
Reboot Granny. Watch out. Reboot Granny's coming.
Okay, I think the next kill will be made by...
Yeah, they kill you and then shock you back to life so they can kill you again for another season.
But anyway, so what about diversity? Did you think there was a lot of diversity in the cast? I think there was. There was a lot of women-wise, it was kind of like a little
they needed to have a female stalker. That would have been
solid
awesome.
gold dancers were a little bit off.
The stalkers were what held this back from being a super awesome, very memorable, top-notch Schwarzenegger. He didn't have good enough baddies. Dynamo was such a dud. They should have removed him. Instead of removing his lines, they should have just removed him from the movie. And if they had like a female, especially a female stalker to go up against Amber, because she kind of shows up late to the show, right?
Yeah.
And then catches up with him somehow going through the landscape.
Yeah.
Hellish
I think
landscape.
she was pushed his direction.
Yeah.
She kind of herded.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah,
it would have been cooler if she had a run into a female.
They could have
stalker.
filled that in before she met.
Total Recall, the fight of the exes or whatever was a really good scene. I would have liked to see something like that in here, but I don't think I answered your question, whatever it was.
I said diversity.
Sorry.
No,
diversity. Yeah.
You touched on it. You touched on it.
Yeah, a little bit, because you had the Asian with the Sub-Zero, and
she was Hispanic.
Part of the resistance had some good diversity in it.
Amber was the girl.
Yeah. Amber Menendez. Yeah. They thought long and hard on her last name.
But
And-
it was. I thought it was really. It
Yeah,
was well presented.
and again, I thought her character was more along the lines of Penny Pity,
oh yeah,
Pretty, or
Yeah,
Pretty
Pen-
from
from
Buckaroo Banzai than Leia-esque.
Yeah.
She did have a scene with a gun, and she kind of just randomly shot out.
dude, the
and-
gun,
and hit
the
someone.
gun scenes was just.
Whoa! Everyone's
Arnold-
spraying all over the place.
Arnold's not
Like,
even aiming.
Yeah,
He's
their
just like,
guns.
blah, 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 blah. He's like perfect aim every time, man.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good point. And he
It
shot
was
with
so
a gun.
bad.
Their barrels are flying all
Oh
over
my
the place.
god, it was so bad.
It was more like they were holding super soakers
Yeah,
than,
totally.
than guns. There were
Oh.
that was pretty poor. Audio, the soundtrack was so not memorable.
Forgettable.
And it really makes you appreciate a good epic soundtrack.
It's true.
Something like with the end part of Buckaroo Banzai or
Last Starfighter.
Last Starfighter, right? It catches you.
Even RoboCop had them.
And this is none of the music. It's just your same tired, kitschy 80s digital whatever. It's pretty bad.
It was not that good.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing I did want to point out that I really liked is that Adidas was the sponsor.
I was just gonna say, it was
for their
on their
jumpsuits.
suit.
The jumpsuit was looked really cool.
Product
Yeah.
placement.
Yeah, the product placements. I'm surprised they didn't have more on them, considering.
It was funny because
how
I
such
noticed
of a-
that. I totally noticed. I told my wife, I was like, "Oh, look, Adidas."
No, their suits looked really good.
Yeah.
Looked really good for sure. And again, thinking back to how it's influenced some modern stuff, maybe it's a very indirect line, but I felt like the boys kind of got influenced by this because you have your stalkers, your heroes that are beloved, but in reality, they're kind of a bunch of pricks, right? Right.
Yeah,
And that's a lot of the boys is, to the masses, these people are almost the next Jesus or whatnot.
Right,
but then
right.
behind the scenes, they're more
That's smoke and mirrors.
yeah,
again.
they're despicable. Yeah, smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
How about you? How did you think that that held up by today's standards?
Well, like we talked about with the like the social media and all that sort of trope, like the TikTok and the survival games like Survivor and Bachelor. It's like,
Yeah.
who knows? Is that scripted? Like, is it totally
If it's
scripted?
not, it's cooked.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's cooked,
and that's
for
what I
sure.
loved. Where I think in the first. What they did to Richard's character, what he did in the helicopter, like they just took it and they edited some audio and they just cooked it, recut it to make him look like the bad guy.
the more drama you have, the
And
more money you
That
get.
is such a big part of all reality TV is, they'll even take scenes from like a whole nother day and cut it in, just to get someone's reaction shot to something that like they weren't even in the room, but they were having them go gasp, to what someone said, just so they can make this narrative.
I think the show my wife was watching was Love Is Blind on Netflix, and they had this one guy. He had been dumped, so he's like, "Oh, my eyes are dry. Let me put some eye drops in," and he put a bunch of eye drops in. And it looked like he had tears coming down, and he started crying, like pretending crying, like, "Oh, she dumped me," and all that stuff. So that's sort of like like you said, it's the cooking part that is really what brings Running Man into this day and age.
Well, right. There's already the effect that you put someone in front of a microphone or you put someone in front of a camera, they're going to act different. And, that's why to start doing a good podcast, it takes a while for this just to feel natural and not be like, oh, I'm on the spot and now I'm going to act different and think differently.
Right.
Because it's, I'm the dancing
Just
monkey
don't think about it.
for half an hour. Yeah. Just don't think about it. Don't
think about it.
Think about it. You're thinking about it. Now, yeah.
So that pretty much touches that for me.
So, and would you recommend it though, or who would you recommend it to?
I would recommend it to people who want to compare sci-fi today with the sci-fi of yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, this is a
It's not like RoboCop where RoboCop, you need to watch it. It's really
if you haven't
good.
seen RoboCop, watch RoboCop.
But it's this is like
nostalgia reasons only.
Yeah.
Again, I'm glad that I watched it, and it really made me think about the game show Survivor sci-fi genre and how this was one of the first. But outside of that, yeah, like I said, there was a lot of wasted time. It felt a lot longer than it was. I think the one-liners that they went for just didn't land and just made it feel stupid. It took me out of the suspense.
Yeah.
And that you're being hunted alive and you're making these just
you get to
really
that point,
bad jokes.
and then the point is done, and you tell a really bad one-liner, and it's like,
How about the lights?
oh, that was kind of dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, at least if you like Arnold Schwarzenegger too, you can see, you know what I mean? You could see how he evolved through his acting career, because I think he really improved.
if you're a Schwarzenegger fan, then
yeah, because I liked him. I watched some of his movies later on. So.
It's definitely worth watching if you're a big Schwarzenegger fan.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I'll be back.
Yeah. So actually, did you hear how the original book ended? That it was
I
different?
never read the book. I didn't even know
Yeah.
Stephen King wrote it till Kat's
exactly.
like, my wife's like, wait, hey, that's Stephen King. I'm like, oh, is it?
Well, so a lot of people like to gripe that Stephen King doesn't know how to end. He's great at every part of storytelling other than the ending. Apparently, in the novel, Killigan wins out and Richards essentially dies. Yeah,
What?
Yeah, manages to kill him.
I gotta read it. I gotta read it now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing that the whole show's tanked probably at this point, and people are in love with Richards, and maybe he's a martyr. That's what I think.
That's what it
cool.
comes down to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what happens anyways, right? They're cheering on him, and
Yeah.
the tension of the masses in this world is a lot of power. So just like with Hunger Games,
Yeah.
as well. So
That's it, and then that's another thing too. If you want to see how maybe the progression of Hunger Games came, I have a feeling like you're going to see some similarities if you watch The Running Man. So
yeah. Well, to transition, we've got a quick shout out to do. A lot of thanks to Peter Baker at Audio Technica, where he's the director of marketing communications. Essentially, we were able to test out some new equipment at PAX, and we like what we heard. So
he helped us out. He was a good guy, very friendly,
Yeah.
and knowledgeable.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. Answered all of our questions and didn't push the sale. We sold
he did
ourselves.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so for the techies out there now, instead of our Blue Yeti mics, we're switched over to Audio Technica 2040s. They're AT 2040s, which is a dynamic mic. Running XLR, and now we've got a UAC Zoom audio interface. So
That's our audio guy right there.
if you like what you hear, well, that could be part of it.
We got one more, or we?
Yeah.
One more shout
So we had a fantastic time at PAX. I don't think we're necessarily going to dedicate a whole episode to PAX, but we also did want to give a shout out to Matt N, who has a great blog that we recommend checking out. That is beatthatbacklog.com. And he's been visiting PAX for over a decade and chronicling his adventures there. We're proud to say that we're part of those adventures now. Had a nice
a good guy.
long conversation about video games and sci-fi and storytelling and all that. So Matt, if you're listening, it was great hanging out, and we'll be in contact.
We'll see each other again at PAX next year.
Yeah, and if we do, we'll be sure to remind you that I'm your host, Jarod.
I'm your host, Eric.
And don't forget that it's not the destination.
It's the journey. Take care.
Woo! live and direct with new microphone.